Good morning, everyone. We're happy to see such a great turnout joining us for a webinar on Agile to DevOps to BizDevOps, how to act like a software company, even if you're not. From speaking with our customers, we know that this topic is top of mind for IT professionals in most large organizations, and we're pleased to be hosting this discussion today. My name is Anand Ganpal. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Blueprint, and I've experienced a lot of the challenges that we'll be speaking to you about today. So prior to Blueprint, I was the lead product owner in a Fortune 500 company that was lucky enough to be named one of the world's most innovative companies. And the reason for that award was driven primarily from the transformation that we underwent to become an Agile DevOps shop over the course of a number of years. So in that role, I led Agile projects consisting of a large number of Scrum teams, each responsible for different parts of our complex software architecture and distributed around the globe. Managing our product deliveries to that scale of project was not part of the Agile textbooks at the time, and we, along with the industry, have developed a number of great lessons that we'll share with you today. CEOs and boards of directors have noticed a disruption in the business models of the large organizations that they run. Revenue streams they've counted on for years, or even decades, have started to decline. The barriers to entry that they thought were unassailable are now easily overcome. Competitors they would have thought too small, too inexperienced, too undercapitalized are now eroding their market share. And in today's rapidly changing customer, regulatory, and competitive environments, the status quo isn't nearly enough. In fact, the average lifespan of a company on the S&P 500 has been reduced by two-thirds, in fact, from 60 years down to 20 years. Companies need to face these changes head on, or there literally will not be a tomorrow for them. The change causing this is the digital transformation that's being driven throughout the market across all industries. It's the solution that CEOs and CIOs are investing in to keep up with the market, and we see that it's becoming pervasive. Digital transformation is a priority for 80% of companies, and they're spending an average of 44% of their IT budget on these digital efforts. Here's some fresh data from 2017 from the Altimeter Group, and it measures the top drivers of digital transformation. The categories themselves are really no surprise to anyone who's been managing a business for the past 5 years. But what's really surprising is the magnitude and urgency of these drivers, where we see that 55% of executives have driven transformation because of changing customer preferences and behaviors. 53% of them are using it to catalyze growth opportunities in new markets. 49% have turned to digital transformation because of increased competitive pressure, and 42% are using it to keep up with new standards and regulatory compliance. Basically, this data is telling us that organizations are turning to digital transformation in order to just stay in business. And it's driving some surprising behaviors, where we see that the need to embrace digital is forcing companies to strategies that would have been hard to fathom even just a few years ago. We see Lloyd Blankfein, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, one of the world's most personal service-focused financial institutions. He's saying that his company is now a technology firm. We also see Jeff Immelt, the CEO of one of the world's most respected manufacturing firms, who agrees with him about his firm at GE, that it's becoming a software company. And he even takes it much further. He believes that every single successful company in the world is now a software company. And we see this continuing. At BNP Paribas, one of the world's largest FIs, they're investing 3 billion euros on digital transformation over the next 3 years, even in the face of declining profits. And the reason for these bold statements and investments is that a failure to get ahead of this transformation is just really not an option. In fact, analyst firm Forrester Group is estimating that corporate revenue risk due to these digital transformation disruptions are increasing by 25 to 50% over the steady state risk levels. This level of revenue volatility is nowhere near acceptable for a public firm. And the solution most companies are turning to, whether they're technology companies or in other industries, whether they're digital natives born in the 2010s or well-established companies with a rich history of complex applications, is to put an increasing focus on Agile and DevOps to drive their digital transformation innovation. where we see that 95% of companies are adopting Agile, and 74% are adopting DevOps, according to the 2016 State of Agile report. And the results of these efforts can be a big increase in the release velocity for their organization. We see an early pioneer like Amazon, who's now deploying over 23,000 releases every single day. And the benefits aren't just for these types of digital native companies. ING, who's a financial institution, is delivering more than 300 releases every single day. And even down to Nordstrom, who's a bricks and mortar retailer, they've experienced a 600% increase in the number of releases that they deploy. But as great as those results look, without the right controls and alignment with business stakeholders in place, the impacts of bad releases can be more immediate and more severe than you would imagine. Let's look at the case we've all heard about with Volkswagen. At Volkswagen, a development team needed to hit its engineering goals, and they set out for them on mileage standards and emission controls. Now, to achieve these goals, they intentionally wrote code that would engage only during emissions testing to fool the regulators into passing them for the emission tests. This action, driven by this development team, not only did immeasurable damage to consumer trust and share price for Volkswagen, it also directly cost them over $20 billion in fines, penalties, and claims in the US alone. And it resulted in the CEO stepping down and at least one of their executives being put in jail. These considerations clearly were not in scope of the development process for the software release that caused this failure at Volkswagen. And these types of issues are not uncommon. Companies pay billions of dollars every single year due to compliance issues with their software and processes. Another cautionary tale is the Microsoft Tay release. In fact, I don't know how many of you are even aware of this because it failed so quickly and so spectacularly. Tay was a Microsoft chatbot targeted at having conversations with millennials. Despite a huge development team and a huge development cost, it was pulled after less than 24 hours in market because the internet immediately taught her artificial intelligence brain to start spewing racist, sexist, and other harmful messages. Now, this is artificial intelligence is something that our teams are playing around in the development labs because it's just such a hot technology right now. But this is a really good example of some of the challenges of failing forward, which is a DevOps practice of releasing often and fixing based on customer feedback. Some of the challenges, like compliance, communications, and interactions with your customers, are just so sensitive that releasing them without the proper business guardrails to assess it can cause irreparable damage to your brand. Now, to put all this together and stay ahead of digital transformation, companies need to use Agile and DevOps to innovate rapidly, but as large, complex organizations that they are, they need to adopt these processes to have the business alignment and ongoing controls to successfully grow the business and protect their brand. Now, but the reason that we're all motivated to innovate quickly is the promise of new markets and new products that can change the lives of our customers for the better. In fact, we know about Amazon, one of the world's largest online retailers. They're in the process of introducing physical grocery stores that have zero checkouts. Customers just go in, pick up their groceries, and leave the store. They're basically set to disrupt every single remaining channel of retail out there that they haven't already disrupted. And we see these disruptions happening everywhere. We're now seeing automated vehicles and delivery options like cars, trucks, drones that will dramatically change transformation and distribution and supply chain economics that'll start happening as early as next year. We see new payment infrastructures like Bitcoin that will transform financial services and may even transform far-flung industries such as healthcare with that new technology. We see augmented reality already starting to make its way out of gaming into broader entertainment and now even into marketing efforts. We see solar technology driving energy costs lower than fossil fuels. With the right desire and the right focus, it often feels like the future is just there for the taking, for the boldest, fastest, Agile and DevOps teams, and that's why we do it. But in fact, let's take a pulse check on the reality of the implementation of Agile and DevOps. Now, if you're like most companies that we work with, your Agile and DevOps evolution looks something like this. You've made good progress on the cultural change towards more agile delivery processes. You've had successful agile projects being delivered, and the agile process is standard across a number of your teams. And you've had some good early success in DevOps. You've had successful pilots of automating delivery in some of your projects. And now you're looking to scale these successes to more projects in larger parts of your organization. And as you scale, you need to evolve your organizational skills to be more broadly applicable across teams and to the entire business. Or else you face the danger of becoming an IT success, not a business success, where it's difficult for you to link new Agile and DevOps practices to increased product success or business metrics. This is something that I faced in my role as a product owner. When we were starting to really get rolling on our Agile and DevOps transformations, we were able to show great increases in the velocity of our releases. But as a product leader, my status presentations to our executives team struggle to tie these releases to increasing revenues and margins. I can also have challenges for mission critical and the highest value business initiatives with Agile and DevOps, where your early successes are with less complex greenfield projects and are really difficult to scale into your practices. I found it much easier to be predictable with our estimations and our velocity with cosmetic changes to the user experience, involving at most our product scrum teams and our amazing user experience labs. But we found it much more difficult to manage the more complex iterations that required changes to enterprise infrastructure like security, or especially our mission-critical mainframe calculations and legacy ERP processes. These were much more difficult to collaborate and manage the impacts across multiple Agile teams across the business. And you can also see large discrepancies of maturity and efficiency across teams and projects. User story quality can be inconsistent, business stakeholder sign-off and interaction can be inconsistent as well. And again, I found that it was the really high value projects or critical regulation changes that were the ones that were difficult to stay aligned with business stakeholders all the way through development and release cycles. Even when the business stakeholders were embedded members of the Agile teams, and even when they attended every sprint demo, it was really still difficult to confirm that their requirements were being met because they simply just didn't speak the language of our user stories and our deployment scripts. They didn't understand what we were demoing to them. And with these complex types of projects, we really ended up having to rework our development more times than I'd like to admit, right at the end of the process, because it was only then that that our business teams were sufficiently able to show our marketing leader and our legal and compliance stakeholders to have a good handle of exactly what it was that was delivered, and it wasn't always in line with what their goals were for the business value. And the reason behind our pains, and the pains of most companies that we talk to, is that the current tool chain doesn't support the scaling of Agile and DevOps. That's because it's missing that explicit connection to the business that we show here in this loop at the top of changing from DevOps to BizDevOps. It's that business collaboration, alignment, definition, and approval additions that we've added to the process flow that really transform DevOps projects from pet IT projects to true strategic drivers of the business. It's the visibility and collaboration barriers between business and IT that need to be solved. Business stakeholders don't want to use text-based Agile and DevOps tools. We also find that these tools create inconsistent skills and maturity across teams. The upfront planning tools in this cycle are completely manual, and they don't drive the teams to consider best practices for delivering their user stories and test cases through that cycle. There's tooling and documentation gaps for critical regulatory, compliance, and NFR concerns, and there are automation gaps in the tool chain. Typically, DevOps is focused only on automating from code commit to deploy. It doesn't handle the manual front-end processes. And each practitioner, where each practitioner has access to the best NFR compliance and reuse opportunities. And that's what we've strove to address with our storyteller. to help companies scale their Agile and DevOps processes. And here's how we do it. We help companies to precisely align their DevOps toolchain to business goals. We deliver a visual model of the desired business outcomes that's easily understood all the way from the CEO right down to the development teams. We provide that visual model that shows how the business outcome is going to be achieved. We also provide real-time collaboration between business and IT, and we provide the ability for business approval and sign-off throughout the process, and even give them the ability to understand the user experience of the proposed solutions. We deliver full SDLC automation. You drive automated development all the way from the planning phase, not only increasing the velocity, but drastically changing the economics of development by taking the manual effort out of the upfront SDLC process. We automate the user stories, UAT, and functional testing directly from that approved visual model. All of your downstream assets can be automatically generated. And we automate the large-scale Agile concerns like compliance and non-functional requirements that are critical for scaling in a complex business environment. We support reuse of business requirements, compliance, and all the associated assets. And we close the DevOps loop back to the business, where now teams can collaborate using the productivity tool of choice, like email, MS Office documents, instead of forcing business stakeholders to learn the Agile tools, which they'll never do. This makes that communication stream much more simple and much more real time. And we deliver visibility, impact analysis, all the way from test all the way back to that specific business initiative that is driving. So the business stakeholders and the project teams have that complete traceability of the impact of the development and the deployments. And here's a great case study of how this actually works in practice. This is one of our customers, Electa, and they're a human care company that pioneers solutions for treating cancer and brain disorders. They're headquartered in Stockholm, Sweden, and they have close to 45 offices in 30 countries. Every single day, 100,000 patients receive diagnosis, treatment, or follow-up by an Electa solution. Now, their challenge was to provide solutions that improve patient care and make the product creation teams work together, share processes, practices, and tools, and to align with their overall global priorities. To do that, they underwent a process of maturing their Agile processes. They adopted Scrum in 2007, but in an attempt to scale up, they saw that the Scrum teams were really operating in silos, causing a severe lack of clarity on the overall objectives and plans for the teams. They wanted to address all of the areas of the enterprise. So to do this, Electa took a holistic view and introduced the Scale Agile framework to their Scrum team to start scaling their Agile development processes. They introduced an ALM tool called Rally for their Agile project management, and they adopted the organization and roles for Scaled Agile. They found that this initial approach improved their quality, increased their project management capabilities across teams, and had more development transparency and better task and project estimation. What they did not realize was a better alignment with their business goals, because what they did not implement, as they were focused on just getting up and running in the scalability, was a distinct alignment with the business and their requirements and sign-off processes. They quickly found this to be critical to the acceleration and continued adoption of Agile and DevOps within their organization. And to solve this major challenge, they turned to Blueprint. By adding the Blueprint solution to the tool chain, this enabled them to align with the business requirements right up front and manage the Agile and DevOps pipeline back to the key business needs. And by doing this, Electa is now able to deliver to the objectives and results expected by the business. They're able to collaborate throughout the DevOps pipeline directly with the key business stakeholders in real time, and they're able to evolve their Scale Agile processes to become a strategic tool that's visible and usable and effective for their overall business. They've really been able to turn their Agile and DevOps practices into a sustainable competitive advantage. That's the session that we wanted to share with you today. And we hope that this was as informative and entertaining for you as it was for us putting it together through all the interviews that we had with our customers and with the industry experts to give you the latest information in the field. So thank you very much, and we will see you in our next webinar.